Hello out there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Driftin' and Driftin'. I'm your host, Reverend Billy Seaworts, and every week I'm here with another artist, and this week I'm absolutely honored, and it's a pleasure to be here with one of my oldest and best friends in the business, and somebody I've been looking forward to talking to for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Deanna Bogart.
Hi, honey.
It's great to see you.
We do.
How are you?
Back, don't we? I'm doing pretty good.
All right. Well, given that, let's jump right in. And how far do we go back?
Well, we go back to the era of Root Boy Slim,
Right.
which is
And
what, like late '80s? You think?
late 70s.
Was it? Yeah, because I landed in Baltimore in '81. Wow.
Right.
You
So
were
let's
playing-
reel it on back. Where did you grow up? In the DC area or Baltimore?
Neither. Although I'm
Okay.
still growing up, so everywhere I go, I'm growing up. Apparently, perhaps. Anyway, born in Detroit, raised in Detroit, New York, Arizona. I was raised to be a road musician. Let's put it that way. I was a divorce brat, so new kid
Okay.
in school pretty much every year. Yeah, and moved to LA when I was about 17, 18, and then I got offered to be in a band when I was 20. And I flew to Maryland to be in a band called Cowboy Jazz on Ronda Records.
Sure.
So, and then I ended up there for quite a while in the beats, in the Baltimore area, which was
What
great.
started you in music?
I don't know who started with what. Growing up, it was kind of difficult growing up, and I could always pick things out on the piano. I could always pick things out on the guitar when I was little. I could always sing a harmony for some reason. And it was my sanctuary, really, and so I really didn't know what I was doing, but it all got me into trouble and out of trouble and helped me being the new kid in school every year. But I really didn't know what I was doing, even though I could play. And so I was about between 17 and 20 living in LA and just singing backup for people and stuff like that. And then I got the gig with the touring band, a recording band, and then I decided to start the journey of what is it that I'm doing? If I understood it, what could I do with it, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still
What
happening.
was the very first record that you heard that you went, wow, I want to play like that?
Wow. Well, I remember in New York City, I was about 4 years old, and
Right.
And it was a next door, like a neighbor's party next door,
Yeah.
downtown New York, everything's
Sure.
smushed together in the back. And there was a band playing. Of course, I'm 4. So to me,
Right.
that was, I know what it looks like now and a long time ago.
Yeah.
They were playing a song. And I went my first journey to Deanna land because I didn't hear anybody else. I didn't see anybody else. Didn't hear anybody yelling me to come with the family. And because I was just struck like a tractor beam, I was just inside this, just staring at it. And the song was, "Oh, sweet pea, won't you dance with me? Won't you dance with me?" And that was the first song that I remember that was connected with music. The first record that I bought, that was different, or the first concert. But it's sort of like some things just come after you, and at some point you have to surrender to it if you're kind of compelled, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when you discovered like blues and jazz and serious stuff that has influenced your style?
Probably. My mom had a bunch of 8-track stuff,
Right.
so she would play all these different things, and there was a piano in the house, so I could always putz around on that for a long time. And but there'd be different things that she would play, and then certain things just stop you. Muddy Waters stopped me. Freddie Fender stopped me. A couple different things. Ella Fitzgerald stopped me, or somebody like that. And so it's just kind of been an on and on thing. And when I was starting with Cowboy Jazz, then I was listening everything. They were sending me everything from Grateful Dead to B.B. King to Jay McShann, and that was amazing. And Jay McShann ended up being my guy for a long time, and took me back into all the Kansas City 30s and the 40s, Pendergast era, and how
Hmm.
important that was. So it all kind of came together in its own
Right.
flavor, in its own way.
Sure.
And I still
Right.
study it all up, you know.
Hmm. Cowboy Jazz was an interesting band. You guys were real unique for the time.
Hmm.
I'm sure that was coming out into the blues bar circuit, and there was a lot of southern rock and that kind of thing around back then. And I'm sure you had some interesting times. But overall, was the band pretty well received?
Yeah, it was like Western swing. I used to think of it as I got older. It was like um, it's like Bob Wills meets the Andrews Sisters at a Grateful Dead jam. That's
That's
pretty much
exactly
what we
right.
were.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And it was how lucky for me, to join this band and be on the road. The first gig was in New York, and they said, "Deanna, take it." I didn't know what that meant. I just
Uh-huh.
had these,
Yeah,
had
right.
these hands, just playing.
Right.
Long before the horn, long before anything. It's just
Sure.
wonderful.
All right. And then tell the folks what it was like. We both had this experience, but I want to hear your take on what it was like playing with the one and only Foster McKenzie III, aka Root Boy Slim and the Sex Change Band.
There's nobody like him. Nobody like him. And I went from cowboy jazz to the Root Boy Slim band. So people that would have seen me in cowboy jazz, they didn't know what to do with Root Boy Slim when it comes to the gigs.
Do you want to describe him or shall I?
Please do.
You
Please do. I'll add to
okay?
it.
All right. Root Boy Slim. I'm 6'4", and he is just about my height. Root
Right.
Boy Slim was the son of a man who designed golf courses. He came from an extremely well-to-do section of Chevy Chase, Washington, D.C., and went to Yale. He was a brilliant man. Unfortunately, he also suffered from schizophrenia that came on later in life and got increasingly worse. Root Boy's main problem was that he was self-medicating that schizophrenia, sometimes with things that worked and with other things that didn't work and things that only made it worse and made his life kind of out of control. Taking that away, his creativity was unbelievable. I mean, he came up with songs like "You Broke My Mood Ring." I mean, how much more fun could you have than bringing a 6'4" man
I love the mood
wearing a
ring.
7-Eleven shirt in a shopping cart on stage and having him, get on and go, "I'm not too old for you," and scaring the bejesus out of half the audience.
The
The other
good
half loved
girls don't cry.
it. I mean,
Inflatable doll.
but the band was like this incredible funk band. I mean, the band was like right up there with the Funkadelics or one of those groups. I always thought. I mean, it was an amazing group. Would you concur? I mean,
Well, as I was such a young musician, and learning wise,
right.
and so the whole school of these people between the cowboy jazz, like Barry Sless and Denise Carlson, people like that, and then and all of a sudden I'm drafted into Root Boy Slim with Ron Holloway and Paul Reed Smith before he started PRS guitars,
Right, right,
and
right.
Barry, and it was just Stuart Smith, and I'm just like soaking it all up, and we could go in any direction, and
Right, right. And hope that you made it through a gig. You made it. Hope that he made it
if we
to
made
at
it to
least
the gig,
one
yes.
set to the second.
The
Did you have to?
stories we have, Billy Boy, the stories
Oh
we
Lord!
have.
Oh my goodness! What an experience. Well,
Mhm.
after that, we both kind of you go whew and go on to the next thing. So it was after that you kind of branched off into your solo career. I mean, being the band leader and basically doing things under your
Yeah,
name.
I never even thought about being a band leader. I didn't even know. When I moved to Baltimore with a one-way ticket to join
Hmm.
Cowboy Jazz, I thought I'd be there for 6 months, and I was there for 37 years. And so going from Cowboy Jazz to Root Boy Slim and Bird Dog and the Road Kings, which was great down on the Eastern Shore, and then Cowboy Jazz was going to do another tour after we kind
Hmm.
of splintered out. There was it was some of the crazy times, as we know,
Right.
and we are still here, and I'm very happy about that, and miss a lot of people. But so anyway, we were in going to the Keys, and the band just blew up again with with certain things that were going on, partying and this and that. So they decided nobody was going to go. And then the guy from down there called up and said, we'll have Deanna do it. You just come down and do it. And it's 6 nights a week, 5 sets a night. And all I do was playing piano, a little bit of sax and singing harmonies. That's what I do, harmonies and now sax,
Mhm.
horn section, which I love. And so the road manager said yes. And so I had to go down there. And boy, if that wasn't school to do that, all down there in the Keys and then in Alaska, and I had to do that. And then I started getting asked for gigs under my name. So, I'm always been a side person, you know.
Mhm.
So being a band leader, you learn a lot about that kind of thing because,
Right.
I think of myself as that because you just close your eyes and you're part of the music. So
Sure.
I appreciate them like I ever wanted people to appreciate me or that. So I ended up being a band leader, and then I started reading up with Count Basie, with Dinah Washington, with Keeter Betts, who played with Dinah Washington and talked to me about why she was one of the best band leaders. And so I was really lucky, and being mentored by Ron Holloway on horn when I
Mhm.
first got my first horn at 25, I think, when I picked it up.
Yeah.
And because I was told when I was 11 that girls can't play that, which made no sense to me,
Mhm.
even at
Sure.
11. But
Right.
anyway, and so I met all kinds of people from Stan Getz to Sonny Rollins when he was playing with Dizzy and Gil Scott Heron, and and you just take
Wow.
it
I'm
in, you just
impressed.
take it in, you just take it in, and come on, we're gonna go with Joe Henderson and have something to eat before Blues Alley. All right, you know. So I didn't always know who everybody was, but I understood what I was what I was being gifted to.
Wow. Wow, that came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting that, but I know you just threw down some heavy names.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's great. Wow, what a
Yeah,
what a what a what a graduate course. Wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing. So
Musically and how they were and how they handled things. And I always watched how people handled things. That's a biggie.
that's what I learned from Sunnyland Slim. Up there in Chicago, I spent a couple of months with him, and as I learned some piano playing, but more just about life and how he conducted things in the business in general. You know,
Exactly.
if you weren't playing music, what would you be doing
Hmm. Hmm. If I wasn't playing music,
for a
let's
living?
see, for a living,
Yeah,
I guess it would be something risky like this, knowing us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
It's
know.
like,
I believe me. I understand.
you know what I mean? It's so crazy. I'm actually one of those people who's very organized and very kind of stable and
Hmm.
solid with the absolute career that is not like that. But I realized early on that, well, it's consistently inconsistent. So I
Right,
so I can do that. It's
right.
what would I do? I don't know. At this point, I might have thought different things before. Um, what there's so many things I would do that I still try
Okay.
to do. I
All
don't know.
right.
What about you? What would you do?
Well, we were just, this was a good lead in. I taught special education. And
Oh, I can see.
I,
I connect that to music for me because when I do that, you're right.
well, that's what I was going to talk about. And tonight I went to the clinic. I went to the clinic and I was pulling up, and they were a minivan pulled up, and it was a group home. And the guy that was the one that was in charge was trying to get a couple of his clients out of the van, and there was a couple of autistic clients, and I said, "Let me help you." And he went, kind of said, "No, no, no, I understand," and so it just kind of like brought all that back to me, working with those clients, and I just, I loved it, and so. Um, you were talking about how you had done some work with that population, but also you worked with some other groups outside the bar and club scene, and you said you've been bringing music to like some Navajo help me with
Yeah,
this.
Navajo Hopi Reservation, the Hopi Res High School.
Tell me
There
about that.
do special needs. When I'm in Panama or when I'm in another country, do stuff like that. It's so magical and incredible. With I didn't know it except for I would see so many people being thwarted by a teacher or thwarted by this because you're supposed to do this or supposed to do that. And I had that coming at me as a kid. And so I'm sure to be a champion to tell, to have somebody value so that you're not afraid to have that part of you. That's the unique individual ingredient that we all have that make us different from each other. And so I started classes of approach to improv, and it can work in many ways. But there's things that's connected with us, with the kind of the life skills that we have accumulated along the way, with music, And like once I was at a high star, a special school in Arizona. Not to say that, just a wonderful place for those kids. And I was doing a music class because I have nieces that go there, and so yeah, of course I'm going to go there. Anyway, so the kids are watching, and I'm doing stuff with them. And this one young man is just getting all kind of crazy, and the admins and the people are saying, no, not you. Sit down, everybody's this, that, but it wasn't the same. I felt somewhere in the moves that he was making, they were thinking that he needs just to sit down. I felt him feeling the rhythm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right,
So
sure.
I said, no, let him come here. And they said, no, well, then everybody has to come up. And I said, no, I think this one just has to come up. And I said, come here, honey. And he came up, and I gave him a tambourine and gave him a beat. And he played with me. And then a few minutes later, I gave him a key on the piano, and he played that. And he was with me. I'm like, well, you're in the whole rest of the time that I was there. And, the parents are crying and people crying, but it was like, you can feel those things when you get on those kind of different vibrations,
No, you're believe me, you're going to get me started here. I mean, I've had several of those.
Please.
I had my favorite one was I did an 8th grade class. I was talking to them about, it was just a normal class, but talking about the blues. And there was one kid there who was an orphan and lived in a foster home and was not very happy and was not picked on by the others because he, if you effed with him, he'd mess you up bad. He was a very angry. And I talked with them about various singers, and I talked about Muddy Waters. And I said, for extra credit, go home tonight, look Muddy Waters up, and come back and tell me what you've learned. Well, everybody else, 8th grade, and he came back the next day and had 5 pages, and he had sat and listened to him. And he went,
oh,
he got it. He said, I get it. He said, he was like, man, this guy is the real deal. And I said, yeah, and it was like the
so
one
you opened a whole sky, a new sky for him.
And you go, oh, this is exactly why we do this. Well,
when I was up on the res, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I've always said that playing for the special populations or working with special populations as I did prepared me for a lifetime of playing for drunk people in bars. It's kind of like, are you sitting nicely? If you're sitting nicely, we'll play Jerry Lee Lewis for you. So.
Well, I have to say though, when I would do some of the classes, I would use blues very, very often.
Sure.
And when it's in, it would be a magnet Scottsdale school, or it would be at a different kind of a place. And with the blues, it connected with everybody, and some of the other kids that you wouldn't expect it, they accepted that and valued that in ways that some of the other kids couldn't do.
Sure. Sure.
And it was just it's easy for them and to be able to create rhymes or not with exactly what they're feeling, and
right.
It's amazing.
You got an instrument there with you?
I do, but it's more like a blankie than an instrument.
Let's see it.
I'm not used to. I'm used to communicating. Oh, it's my banjolele.
Okay.
I was
going to say, you want to play one, and then let's talk a little more. You want to do that?
On a banjolele, really, it really was there just as my blanket. What do we got? Should all acquaintance be forgot?
Go ahead.
And never fall in line? Well, we'll take a cup of kindness yet, and for the days of old lang syne.
That's great. Thank you.
Either that
Tell
or
us
going to
about
be
now.
as time goes by, one of the two, I suppose. I didn't know
Tell us
what I was
about the
going
blues.
to play. Sorry, everybody.
Well, you can do that. You can do that at the end if you want to. I just, I was just enjoying that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you cross paths with Roger Neighbor and the folks on the Blues Cruise?
It's really interesting. When I had my daughter, and I'd been on the road a lot, like everybody,
Mm-hmm.
just crossing everywhere. And when when my daughter was growing up, well, what would it have been? Maybe, I don't know. When maybe she was like 12, 13, 14. So I was starting to pull back a little bit because it seemed like the right thing to do. And all these people were saying, well, now you'll never be on the grid again. They'll forget you. You won't do this or that. And I'm like, well, if that happens, that's my bad. Nobody else's. But if you're doing the things for the right reasons, then they come back to you. So I
Mm-hmm.
just stayed kind of locally, was there for my daughter and doing some classes and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when she was just getting old enough and I could start going out a little bit more, um, I got the invite to go on the Blues Cruise, which I'd always wanted to go on and always wanted to be on, but I never was. And that was 2006. And
Mm-hmm.
it changed a whole lot of everything. So the timing was almost like one of those construction beams. Uh-oh, now what do I do? Oh, there it is. Before
What
you
did it
fall.
What did it change for you?
Well, it it was inspired in so many ways, even just to be playing and just to be writing again and recording. But going on the cruise, it was scary for me, and I didn't know what was going on and coming on there. And at the last minute, my guitar player couldn't go; he needed to have an emergency stint. So I was going on with the three of us, and we walked on the boat, and so many people that I didn't even know or had met long ago would be like Tommy, Jimmy Thackeray, Kenny Neal, Jimmy Carpenter, everybody coming up to me, whether they knew what had happened, and said, there to play for you, whatever you need, whatever you want. And it ended up being incredible because I got to play with all kinds of people. And everything was a little bit off the wing and scary and exciting at the same way.
Right.
And I was a jam monster. I loved it. I didn't want to sleep. I
Right.
love the parties in the elevator. No elevators are better than that ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned so much and met so many people and listened to everybody and their flavors, and then just getting to know each other and I felt sort of being welcomed into kind of a family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You
No, I always say that for me, I've done, I don't even know how many, 15. I don't know. I've done a bunch of them, but still to me, the most enjoyable, aside from the as a solo piano player, and as you well know this, that piano bar is like the ultimate perfect, they're actually paying attention. They're listening to what you're doing. You can play funny stuff. You can play serious stuff and really let your A game go, and again, you're overwhelmed by the players that are on the boat. But going up to that Lido deck, and I look and see where like a lot of those older guys are sitting, and just get me a seat at the end of the table, because you think you and I have some road stories. When Leon and those guys start telling road stories, and Taj, I mean,
I see. I love the
I'm
stories.
working on I've got my new book in progress, that kind of thing, just
Yeah, mine's going to be called "Oh, the Stories,"
Oh yeah.
because that's one of the biggest part of our currencies is the stories and the adventures and like you, for me
Sure.
coming up, I always was um drawn to the oldest people I could find, and I've
Mm-hmm.
heard all these amazing stories, and you just all the stories that we have,
Yeah.
traveling. It's incredible.
I find myself looking and going, God, you lived through that, that kind of thing. Of course, that's being said, when you start telling Root Boy stories, they go,
Well,
yeah, okay.
yeah, well,
So
now
tell me,
sometimes people come up sometime and say, "Oh, I was listening to you when I was little," and I'm like, "Wow, I'm getting to be her."
Yeah. Yeah. So not to get too serious, but I am curious. Do you still feel that the music business is a patriarchal one? And if so, do you feel it getting better than it was? That's
What
kind
do
of a
you
loaded.
specifically?
Do you still find issues of gender?
No, I
Great.
never have. Me
Okay.
personally, um, I'm sure that there's times that has happened, at different
Hmm.
periods of time. But when I would read up like read about um, um, Mary Lou Williams,
Right.
and women like that, musicians like that who happen to be women. So whenever I would get on a stage and maybe I would get this look or a couple looks from a couple guys, well, I don't know why they're thinking that, you know. I just figure, maybe they're just schmucks. They just don't want. But I never thought that it was like a gender, because when we're on stage and we close your eyes and you play, that's all that matters, you know. And
Amen.
and if I'm not up to it, that's my bad. It's time to me go
Hmm.
out and school myself, and be
Right.
better and better. But I never made that as an excuse. It just didn't seem fair to anybody.
Okay. What's one thing about you that people would be surprised to know?
And there's things about me that I'm surprised. Um, so I don't even know. I don't know. Let's see. Um, hmm. Let me think about that. What would surprise? Well, a lot of people think that you're very vivacious because you're on stage,
Hmm.
you know, which I find it somewhat terrifying. Except for it's one of the only places where I can go to Deanna land, where there's nobody there but me and the music and my guys, and so yeah, it's maybe that's not a
Do you
surprise.
still get, no, that's good. That's great. Do you still get stage fright?
I do. And I'm not sure if I really have that fear, or it's an old process for me to time travel back and remember how exciting it was to be on stage and to play, you know, without knowing all the things you shouldn't have done or did do, or that was wrong or this or that. It was just the best. And the more we learn, which is great, but then sometimes I would forget to just listen to the joy of it without
Hmm.
saying, oh, they missed that. Oh, they missed that.
Sure.
So I think that might be a process for me, so that it never feels like, yeah, I just do it. I
Right.
still want it. That's my currency, that I need that. Yeah. If that
Absolutely.
makes
You
sense.
know, I don't care where it is, what crowd, whether it's a country crowd, a rock and roll crowd, whenever I need to give something to drop it into the next gear, I can always go into a boogie woogie version of Drinking Wine Spodioti. What's one that you do that no matter what, it's going to kick them up to that next gear and you'll always have them going?
Well, you're right about that. And it's interesting that you're talking about boogie woogie, because that's its own world,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
with boogie woogie. And it seems to just have no borderlines. You just keep going. It's happy. It's fun. It's harder to do than it looks like. It's you know
But it is absolutely universal. And that is,
Absolutely
we've played overseas, you played for special population. It doesn't matter. I
right.
dare you not to tap your feet when I get my left hand going,
Yeah, exactly. That you got to
you
have
know?
the left hand,
Oh yeah.
or it doesn't
And
count.
and I mean that's that whole that whole beat. I mean it was made for it came out of lumber camps. It was not pretty music that was made to be listened to. It was made to be drinking and dancing and words that begin with F. So
And the and the train, and the fact that it was the rhythm section.
right, yeah,
Oh, rhythm section.
they came. I guess I've always heard that they came out of northern Texas where they were going do 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 to try and get that sound of the train.
Right. I love
You
that.
know, Oh
I
yeah,
love.
there's nothing like it. Yeah, yeah, that's great. Um,
I
wow.
read every book I could find, like Left Hand from God, you know, a gig in the UK. Just read everything that I could. I mean, I like, I like history.
We're
And
sponges. We just completely absorb everything, music that has to do. I special order it right away. What's a
but
couple of artists that you, who are a couple of artists that you always can listen to over and over and over, never get tired of?
there's that's kind of across the
Sure.
top. Let's see if let's see if we're talking boogie woogie. Pete Johnson was my guy. Um, Ben Webster and the horn. Wow, so many. I love classical music. Glenn
Mm-hmm.
Gould. Um, so many. Stevie Wonder. Um,
Classic blues singers.
lots of blues. Oh my gosh. Well, that goes on. That goes on and on and on and on. And so many. It's so many. I'll have to think of. What else? I don't know. I always like listening. Love listening to Otis Spann.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lesson through Ronnie Baker Brooks. Thanks, Ronnie. And
Mm-hmm.
love that. Certainly, Etta James and then going way back. Whether it's Ma Rainey or Mahalia Jackson or
Memphis Minnie,
yeah.
Rosetta Tharpe.
Rosetta Tharpe. Um, what's her name right now? It's right in my head and I lost it. But yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, listen. It's been one last thing. You not only play great, but you carry on the legacy very well, and that's to be commended and much appreciated. That it's simply not about taking, but it's about giving back and spreading this to a next generation. If you were talking to a young person who was saying, "Listen, I kind of like this, and I think I might want to do what you want to do," what would be a couple of words of advice that you would give them? What would be a couple of,
If they said what?
if they said they wanted to maybe play music and do what you do, what would be some advice you would give them?
I would say surrender to what you love, go with your gut, and remember that who you are is enough. And you don't have to be anybody else. You can learn from everybody. You can be inspired by everybody. You can in any way that you want. But remember that who you are is enough, and let that keep growing and growing and growing, and you will be the best you could ever be.
And sitting, the last question, which I told you I was going to ask you,
Uh-oh.
at the end of it all, when you're sitting there on the porch looking back on the whole journey, what are you going to be proudest of, or what are you going to be, what's going to feel the best to you
That's
that you
interesting.
accomplished?
So on my deathbed around 111 on that rocking chair on the porch. Will
Right.
we be jamming
Right.
together? I think we'll be jamming together, won't we?
Yeah, I was going to say Blues Cruise number 600, whatever,
There you go.
Yeah, right.
There you go. You think about it along the way, but when I do time travel forward and I look back and I realize even so far and with so much left, what about really living life every minute that you can on your own terms as much as you can,
Mm-hmm.
and valuing and loving the people that you have and back and helping all kinds of people and knowing that you were there to make people's lives better, but certainly never make them any worse. Let's keep going.
Great. Do you want to play a little more something? I know we're going to play one of one of the clips that you gave us on your boogie woogie things, but
You have a keyboard there, don't you?
no, I don't have one here. No, I
Oh,
don't.
okay.
But
We
I'm
could
saying
have
we're
gone
going to.
four-handed.
Yeah, no. If you got something you'd like to play a little bit, that'd be great. If you want to play something out, either on your banjo, or do you have something there, or do you want us to just go and use one of the clips?
No, just you can just go with one of the clips. All unless somebody likes to hear good music played not well, banjo lately.
Knock yourself out. Play a couple.
But I
I
love
mean,
it.
play.
Well, let's
But
see.
play as time goes by if you want to. Whatever you want to play.
When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. I only know so many songs on this. When you're happy, The sun comes shining through.
Come on.
You're crying. You bring down the rain. No more crying. And you laugh again. Because when you're smiling, Billy, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles. The whole world smiles. Yeah, the whole world smiles with you.
That was absolutely terrific. Thank you so very much. I'm Reverend Billy Wirtz. You've been listening to Driftin' and Driftin' and watching Driftin' and Driftin' with my very, very special guest, Deanna Bogart. The happiest of holidays and the best of luck to you. And we'll see you down the way just a little bit. Thank you so very much for an absolutely wonderful interview.
Thanks,
Take care of yourself. All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye. have crying eyes, bring them along. Or if you don't feel at ease, maybe I know your song. Now I don't mind if it takes us a little longer. I'm willing to stay here and love you till dawn. It'll be alright. Baby, the one that you get up for might be your you said it's lost, but I don't believe it. It might be mine. So if you have doubts and fears, why stay alone? I felt that way for years. The worst of it's gone. I don't mind. It takes a few hours. If you've got the heart for it, I'll find the power to make it all right. Me, sad one. You used to know I'll be your life. Be the forgotten. You've changed it so. It might be yours, it might be mine. I don't need nobody to cry for me. I don't need your sympathy. Oh, the night is a river where the lonely drown. And if you still love me, I'll be around. Now I can see by the look on your face that you hurt. I guess you wouldn't be here if you weren't. It's alright.